Time now for the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mac, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.
Cardinals and Cubs tonight, and Brad Thompson, Dan McLaughlin on 101 ESPN. It's the Redbird Report. And Brad, when you think about Cubs and Cardinals, this is about as good as it gets.
Yeah, it is, man. This is what it's all about. And it's crazy. We're sitting here. It is Friday, June 24th. And this is the first time that the Cubs have come to the stadium so far this season, come to St. Louis. I know that with the lockout, we had some games rescheduled. We'll figure that out throughout the season. But it is crazy that the Cubs are coming to town, and it should be a good one, and one that, honestly, on paper a little bit ago, maybe we wouldn't have thought would be a good one. Kyle Hendricks, Andre Pallante. But you got two guys that are doing two different things. Hendricks has struggled so far this year, sitting here at 2-6. He's got an ERA north of 5, and Andre Pallante has been a little bit of a revelation, really, in this rotation as they needed him so much. Pallante has come in. He's pitched in tough situations. I just love the whole Pallante story of the year. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things. A guy that came into spring, nobody really expected anything except for he expected a lot out of himself. He gets himself onto this big league team. He starts out in a couple of kind of mop-up roles where they just kind of get him acclimated to the big league level. And then all of a sudden, he finds himself in high leverage spots in the pen, and now he is firmly in the rotation. Not just holding a spot, but he is like firmly there right now. Dan, I'm excited for Andre Pallante to get this one at home against the Cubs.
You did the game on Sunday, his last start. So what did you take away from Pallante in that start against the Red Sox?
Yeah, look, for me, the main thing is he's not scared. And that is a thing. Fenway Park can be a daunting place to pitch. It really can. And it can be a place that can be overwhelming for young pitchers, veteran pitchers. And this is a guy that went out there, again, a rookie who was in the pen at the beginning of the season. He pitched into the 6th inning. He only gave up 2 runs. He walked one guy. Like, he was in command for most of that ball game until it, ultimately ended up falling apart late. The Cardinals couldn't get any offense going. Verhagen had a rough one in that one. But I just think that he firmly believes that he belongs, and that is a beautiful thing. And I love hearing his teammates talk about him, how he is a student of the game, how he's always asking questions. He's always engaged in what's going on. And you know this, Dan, you've been around players for a long time and young guys that come into the league and think they've got it figured out, and they just go out there and let their skill set play. Andre Pallante is letting his skill set play, but I think that he's still trying to retain and gain as much information as he possibly can, and that's just going to make him better and better.
What did you learn about the Cardinals on this recent road trip in terms of the bullpen guys, Verhagen, McFarland's on the IL, the COVID IL, but what have we learned about the bullpen going into this weekend series?
Yeah, honestly, I really think that is one of the best things that came out of this road trip for me, specifically the Milwaukee portion of it against the Brewers. Is I feel like you may have found a couple of bridges to your back end. Dan, how long has that been a talking point for us? How do you get the ball to Giovanni Gallegos and Cabrera and Helsley? Like, how do you get them the ball if your starter doesn't give you 6+ innings? And we got 2 names that have emerged in this. Johan Oviedo, how about that young man? First win. Wasn't it awesome? First win in 25 games. And the emotions were there. He was in tears after the game. He was in tears with his teammates, with the media. Then he goes back to the hotel, ultimately gets to talk to his family in Cuba, and that gets it going again. I mean, you think about what a player, just in general, any player has to do to get to the big league. It's special. Now, think about a player from Cuba who has to defect from his country, leave his family, and then ultimately, be here on a solo mission and does it. I'm just excited for him. Like, it was such a neat day, and it meant the world to him. But I think he might have found a home in the bullpen, Dan. I mean, this is a guy that went out there and it wasn't like he was on top of every hitter. He was 2 for 7, I think it was, first pitch strikes, but he got right back into counts. And that's what I like to see. He pitched with confidence, and I thought he was really good. And the other guy is Zach Thompson. I know you've been singing his praises, Dan. Zach now, and he pitched in the ball game yesterday on 1 day's rest, which I don't know if he's ever done in his career, pitch on 1 day's rest. 13 pitches, and threw a lot of strikes, got a scoreless inning again. All of a sudden, you've got two guys that can bridge the gap. Two guys, by the way, that can both give you multiple innings, which is a big trend in this Cardinal bullpen, is multiple innings from all your guys. I think this could end up being a big strength.
Thompson, is he related?
Yeah, now he is. Yes. Like I told Zach before, he was getting the same thing. He was getting the same questions. Hey, are you related to Brad? And he's like, who the heck is Brad? And I was getting the question. And I said, look, if he pitches well, we're related. I love it. Turns out, look, we might be brothers at this point, the way that he's pitching. I'd like to hitch my wagon to that Zach Thompson. He's doing a really good job. But again, another guy that looks confident. And you and I talked about this when we were in Boston, okay, it's all about the organization, your farm system, your drafting, your developing. You have to get the right guys. You have to get the guys that are ready for the moments. And I think that Randy Flores and his crew over there, the scouting, and Gary LaRocque and the player development, they've done such a good job of identifying the right pieces and then getting them ready in a very quick time to be able to contribute at the big league level. And it's a special thing. Are there going to be bumps in the road for Zach Thompson? Yes, of course. Andre Pallante, absolutely. Nolan Gorman, yes. Like all these guys are going to have bumps in the road. But they seem like a very mentally tough group. And to me, that's a credit credit to the player first and foremost. Obviously, they have to get it done. But recognizing that talent, getting it in your organization, and then continuing to hone it. I just think they've done a really good job with that.
It's so late in the season to see the Cubs come to St. Louis for the first time. So from a player's perspective, your perspective, you're a player, what is it like, the Cubs and the Cardinals, first time at Busch Stadium?
Yeah, it's always fun. It doesn't matter if both teams are battling it out for the division, and we've had that throughout the years.
I mean, but do you guys feel it, though? I mean,
yes, dude, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You approach every single game like it's the same, and it's one of 162, and you still have to go about your business. But there's a different energy in the stadium. There really is. And there's a good mix. Cardinal fans show out big time. We know this, and it'll be a packed house over the weekend. But there's a lot of Cubby blue in there. And there's a lot of cheers when the opposition does something well. And you kind of feed off that energy a little bit that the crowd brings. So you certainly feel it at home. You feel it on the road. And it brings an added element. And it is something that is really fun for a lot of these guys that have not been a part of this before and have not seen the rivalry that's there with the Cubs and the Cardinals. And this isn't some like bloody rivalry that every time these two teams face each other, it's a bunch of beanballs and somebody's going to get in a fight. But it is one where there's a sense of pride. You go out there, Cardinals, Cubs, you want to show them who's boss. So, I think it is, fun that Pallante, a rookie, is the guy on the mound heading this thing off with Miles Michaelis coming the next day.
Being a bullpen guy, which you were, but, seeing how this has worked out for Ollie, and it's been tough to get through some of the stages of this season with the bullpen. How do you think he's handled the bullpen so far?
I think he's done as well as he possibly can. Like, there have not been very many occasions where a guy comes trotting in out of the bullpen and you go, why is he there? And the only occasions, Dan, that has happened, you and I have been doing games, or at least the ones that I remember, you and I have been doing games, and we knew ahead of time that somebody probably wasn't available for one reason or another. So it wasn't like he went to a wrong guy. It was because a guy wasn't available. And that's something to remember oftentimes as a fan. And all this information can't get out because it's a competitive advantage thing. He's not going to tell you before a game if XYZ reliever is not available, but he will oftentimes, let it go talking to us, right? Talking to the broadcast crew. So you know how to frame a story if something is happening. And I really think that he's done a good job. And what impresses me the most, and this is a credit to the players as well, Dan, is his willingness to have guys throw multiple innings, his willingness to let Giovanni Gallegos go out there and give you two, and Helsley give you two, and Cabrera give you two. Zach Thompson, you got two in you? Go ahead. Give me a couple. I wonder, Dan, and I'm interested in your thought on this, if we see that being a trend of this Cardinal bullpen going forward, not just the, hey, give me six, and then here comes Cabrera and Gio and Helsley, do we see, hey, you give me 6, and then Cabrera, you got 2 today, and then we'll get 1 here. And then somebody else, you got 2 today, and then we got 1 here. I really think that might be a trend.
What I take away from the recent road trip is the fact that he's relied on Zach Thompson, Oviedo, and these guys have stepped up when others have not. So he's saying, hey, here's your chance. Go get it. And if they do, they do. If they don't, they don't. And as you all know, playing for Tony, it's either you do or you don't. So that's kind of the way I look at how Ali is managing his bullpen.
It makes me laugh. It's the old, hey, I tried. I can get somebody out of the stands to try. I need you to do, who is doing out there? And you're right. They found a couple of guys that are doing. Now, does that mean that Johan Oviedo, boom, it's solved? He's in the bullpen. Your bridge is fixed. No, it means you have an option and he's going to get another opportunity to prove that he's that guy. Same thing with Zach Thompson. It's like, yes, okay, we found that left-handed complement to Genesis Cabrera. No, it means we have another option. He will get more opportunities to prove his worth in this bullpen. But now is the time to find out, isn't it, Dan? Because you have a trade deadline that is looming. You have a trade deadline in over a month that you want to find out what you need as a ball club. And I think that they're trying to figure those things out. I think there are still question marks in your starting rotation, certainly, when you look at Jack Flaherty's first couple of outings. I think there are question marks, obviously, surrounding Steven Matz still. So maybe that's an area that they look at. But I still believe that solidifying this bullpen should be something that they're looking at the trade deadline. But you got a couple of guys said, wait, don't forget about me. And that's what I want Oviedo to be. That's what I want Thompson to be. And you mentioned a name earlier, Dan, as we wrap this thing up. You mentioned, Drew Verhagen. Dude, Verhagen's got to prove something. He's got to go out there and prove that he can be the guy that they signed a multi-year deal to. His stuff is really good, but the production has not been there for him. That's a guy that they need more out of, and he should be in some of these higher leverage situations, but he just hasn't proven that he can continually get it done.
Do guys talk about that in the bullpen? I mean, you guys are out there forever, and there's not a lot going on in games for 5, 6, 7, sometimes 9 innings. Do they say, man, I might be, I'm the guy on the chopping block? Do they talk about that?
You know what? You might talk about it with some of your closest friends out there, and you might have those conversations. But we generally, as a bullpen group, you're in it together. Like you're all rooting for each other, and the expectation is that on a given night that things are going to go well for you, and you are going to flip the script if things are going bad. But it is nice to have somebody to just be a sounding board for you out there. It's like, man, dude, I'm struggling really bad. Maybe I might be the guy here soon. And you've got a buddy down there saying, screw that, man, you're good. You're going to be good to go. Go get these guys out today. But there are plenty of conversations that go out there, and guys are smart too. Okay. I knew on a given day when I showed up at the ballpark that there might end up being a suitcase sitting in the middle of the locker room and that I was going to be the guy that would get a tap on the shoulder from Rip Rowe and the clubhouse attendant that says, Skip wants to see you. Like, it is a performance business. So if you're performing, you're good to go. If you're not, how do you fix it so you can? Because ultimately, someone is always coming for your job. And I don't care if you're a guy that's entrenched in a multi-year deal or if you're a young guy that's just scratching and clawing to stay in the big leagues. Somebody always wants your gig. And I think that the guys that work the hardest are the guys that realize that on a day-to-day basis.
Homestand begins tonight. So you got the first of 3 against the Cubs, and then you have the Marlins. What are your expectations on this homestand as we wrap it up?
Well, look, I feel like the Cubs, while we talk about the rivalry, the Cubs are a team that you should beat. They are trending in a rebuilding direction, and you should beat them. But should means nothing. What do you go out there and do? We mentioned it's Pallante in game 1, Michaelis in game 2. How good has Miles Michaelis been? I mean, my goodness, that guy has been a rock. And in game 3, you're set to see Jack Flaherty for his 3rd start of the year. Look, I want to see Jack. I want to see what he ends up looking like. And I think this ends up being a pretty good series for you potentially. And with the Marlins, you know how good their pitching is, but I think that you can pitch to them. You are a better team than the Marlins. I expect this to be a winning homestand before the Cardinals head out and they go to Philly, go to Atlanta, because the schedule starts getting a little rough.
Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thank you. That was fun. Let's do it again.
Brad Thompson, Danny Mack. This is the Redbird Report on 101 ESPN.
You've been listening to the Redbird Report podcast with the TV voice of the Cards, Danny Mack, and Cards World Series champion Brad Thompson on 101 ESPN.